The day Chloe broke off her engagement, I married the man she was supposed to marry. What was the threat of being disowned by the family compared to that? I lived with him in a cramped apartment and ate cheap takeout, through his rise from nothing to acquiring Blackwood Industries. He kissed my hand and said, "Ava, I'll never fail you." But 5 years into our marriage, a sudden car accident happened on the way to my prenatal checkup. His eyes red, he scooped me into the ambulance. At the operating room door, the doctor stopped me. "Mrs. Blackwood's surgery appointments are fully booked." I waited, covered in blood, until I saw my sister being wheeled in. A nurse called out to her, "Mrs. Blackwood." He said he was going to pick up medication for me, but instead, he stood by my sister's hospital room, wiping her sweat. I smiled, touching my belly, and threw the miscarriage report at him. It turned out that from the very beginning, I was the one who didn't belong. After Robert Blackwood was exposed as a fake heir, my sister broke off the engagement on the spot. It was me who risked the threat of being disowned by the family to marry him, who stayed by him and helped him through his rise from nothing. He said he would never fail me in this life. But 5 years into our marriage, I was in a car accident during my prenatal checkup. He immediately picked me up and put me in the ambulance, glancing coldly at my sister, who also lay bleeding on the pavement. "I have to take Ava to the hospital first. If you die, that's your fate." But when we got to the hospital, the doctors wouldn't let me into the operating room. They said Robert Blackwood had booked a surgery for Mrs. Blackwood, and I would have to wait. Confused, I saw my sister being ushered in by a team of doctors. It was then I realized the Mrs. Blackwood they spoke of was my sister. And Robert Blackwood, who had claimed he was going to pick up medication for me, was by my sister's side. I didn't argue, didn't cry. I just left behind a miscarriage report. Blood streamed down my thigh, pooling on the floor. Just then, my Sarah called. "I saw on television that there was a car accident on the elevated highway," she said. "Are you okay?" The pretense of strength I'd clung to shattered. My eyes stung with tears. Before I could speak, Sarah rattled on, "Sorry, I'm rambling. How could you not be okay? Your man even had the whole road shut down to save you. It trended online. See? That's what I call love through thick and thin. I'm so jealous." The words of complaint died in my throat. What could I say? That Robert Blackwood had coldly told my sister her death was her fate, while his eyes were filled with tenderness for her? Or that Robert Blackwood had booked an operating room for Mrs. Blackwood, but after repeatedly asking the doctors, I realized that Mrs. Blackwood wasn't me? I couldn't force the words out. Sarah was still chirping happily, "Now that you're pregnant, he'll definitely love you even more." But I was exhausted. Child or love, I wouldn't get either. I hung up, just as Robert Blackwood arrived late. He rushed past me, not even glancing my way. His entire focus was on the brightly lit emergency room. He didn't see me, he was too busy arguing with the doctors. "How is Chloe? Is she okay? If you don't fix her, I'll fire every single one of you." This private hospital was one of his properties. He had the power. In the few minutes he lingered in the corridor, he said Chloe 3 times, yet never once mentioned me. The doctor told him the patient's will to live wasn't strong, and that Chloe had asked them to tell him she was sorry. Robert Blackwood punched the wall, shouting towards the operating room with no regard for his image. "Chloe, are you upset about the harsh things I said during the accident?" "I'm sorry, I didn't mean any of it. Don't die. I forgive you for everything that happened before. I won't allow you to abandon me a second time." I watched his figure disappear around the corner, tears falling one by one. The hand that had been reaching for his phone fell limply. Only now did I truly accept the cruel reality. When it came down to me and Chloe, he had still chosen her. I waited in the waiting area for an hour until finally a doctor had time for me. "Ma'am, your leg." I didn't suffer serious injuries in the accident, I interrupted. Doctor, I'd like to schedule an abortion. An abortion requires a relative's signature for anesthesia, so I chose to have it without. As I felt the cold instruments inside me, my heart sank further. 5 years of marriage, and this was the IVF baby I'd finally conceived after countless hospital visits. The days of progesterone shots and egg retrieval felt like yesterday. I used to think that if I could just have a child with Robert Blackwood, any amount of suffering would be worth it. But now, I'd changed my mind. I sat numbly in the hospital room all afternoon, memories playing like a movie. 5 years ago, after he was exposed as a fake heir, he'd fallen into depression. Only I stayed by his side. He'd said, "Ava, you were the light that saved me in the darkness. Without you, I wouldn't know what to do. I'll never fail you in this life." But you can't lie to yourself. Between me and Chloe, he still chose Chloe. I closed my eyes in pain, the miscarriage report clutched in my hand. When he finally came, I would give it to him. It wasn't until 8 in the evening that Robert Blackwood finally came to see me. He gripped my hand, his expression full of concern. "Ava, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize they got the name on the reservation wrong. I made you wait so long for your surgery." He leaned in to kiss my forehead, as he always did to comfort me, but I easily pulled away. His feigned concern made my stomach turn. Noticing my mood, he produced a takeout bag. "Ava, you haven't eaten, right? I ordered this just for you." The note on the takeout order even specified, "My wife is allergic to chili, no spicy food." But I wasn't allergic to chili. Chloe was. Seeing Chloe's name listed as the name of the person who ordered, my heart twisted. Love and indifference were so starkly obvious. He remembered Chloe's dietary restriction from 5 years ago, yet he only bothered to give me Chloe's leftovers. I took a few deep breaths to compose myself, reaching under the pillow for the miscarriage report. But his phone rang, and he left in a hurry. "Sorry, Ava, something urgent came up with the company. I'll come back and see you after I deal with it." It was a lie. That was Chloe's exclusive ringtone. He said he'd be right back, but he never showed up again, not even when I was discharged from the hospital. Of course, Chloe wasn't discharged yet, so he had to stay and keep her company. I went home alone and started packing. The wedding photo I'd once cherished hung on the wall, the radiant smile in it now seeming to mock me. I slammed my fist against it. The wedding photo fell, and an envelope tucked behind it dropped too. It turned out Robert Blackwood had been writing letters to Chloe for the past 5 years. "I won you over by writing you poems back then, and now, I'll use these letters to win you back. Did you only stay with me back then because of my status? I love you. Even though your sister looks a lot like you, only by pretending she is you can I feel like sleeping with her at night." As time went on, his pride crumbled, and his pleas became almost desperate. "I have money now. Whenever you want, I can be with you. Even if I'm just your lover, I just want you to look at me." I started sobbing uncontrollably, unable to read any further. I never imagined that behind our sacred wedding photo lay evidence of his emotional infidelity. Back then, he'd been kicked out of the Blackwood family and couldn't even afford a proper wedding. We only took a wedding photo, and he said that counted as being married. Hee-haw. Didn't even bothered to get a marriage license with me. I'd been such a fool to believe him for so long. But perhaps it was for the best. It saved me the trouble of a divorce. I called my Sarah, who was a lawyer. "Help me disappear from the system and book an international flight." As soon as I hung up, the jewelry store I owned called. "Miss Blackwood, Mr. Blackwood said it's your anniversary and he custom ordered a ring for you, but the ring size is one size smaller than usual." I wanted to double check if size 12 is really correct. My anniversary with Robert Blackwood had been a month ago. Clearly, This wasn't a surprise for me. I coldly confirmed the size and hung up. Carrying my luggage, I took one last look at the home before closing the door. An undelivered package had been returned. I opened it instinctively and found a birthday banquet invitation. It was for Chloe's birthday, and the host was Robert Blackwood. Their names were printed close together in the bottom right corner, like needles piercing my eyes. How could I not attend a birthday party hosted by my husband for my sister? 3 on Chloe's birthday, Robert Blackwood even called me. Ava, he said, didn't you say you wanted a bracelet? I custom ordered a limited edition one from Paris. It should have arrived at the house by now. I gave a self-mocking laugh. What was this? Remorse after cheating, or just a payoff before saying goodbye? But I was wrong about him. He continued, besides that, I had my assistant send a debit card home. There's $1 million in it, and the pin was your birthday. Now that you're out of the hospital, why don't you travel to clear your head for a few days? I let out a short laugh. No need. I would never go back to that home, and I didn't care about his gifts. I hung up just as I walked through the doors of the ballroom. I saw him kneeling on one knee, holding up a ring box in front of Chloe. The murmurs from the crowd reached my ears. Isn't Chloe the wife of Mr. Blackwood's sister? Are you stupid? Mr. Blackwood and Ava were never legally married. Technically, Chloe was always Mr. Blackwood's fiancée. If you ask me, Mr. Blackwood and Chloe are the real match. Even though Ava stuck by Mr. Blackwood when he was down, she didn't have a legitimate standing. People say what they hear and what suits them. They used to wish Robert Blackwood and me 100 years of happiness, and now they were calling Chloe and him a match made in heaven. Someone saw me walk in and looked as if they'd seen a ghost. Robert Blackwood, in the center of the ballroom, shot up from the ground. Ava, what are you doing here? He looked flustered, but Chloe confidently walked over and took my hand. Robert said you prepared this birthday banquet specially for me. Thank you. With that flattering remark, what could I say? She'd covered for Robert Blackwood, and he looked at her with eyes full of gratitude. They exchanged glances right in front of me, and bitterness flooded my heart. Robert Blackwood's best friend, ignoring my pain, sneered at me. You can't force what's not meant to be. Before, I called you sister-in-law out of respect for Robert Blackwood, but I'm afraid things will be changing now. He accidentally fumbled, dropping his wine glass, and the liquid splashed all over my evening gown. Even Chloe got some red wine on her. Robert Blackwood instinctively draped his jacket over her. Then, realizing his mistake, he borrowed a jacket from someone nearby and handed it to me. Ava, Chloe has been upset since the car accident. That's why I decided to throw her this birthday party. Oh, I replied coldly. I wanted to turn and leave, but he stopped me. You didn't misunderstand anything, did you? I shook my head. It was the truth. How could it be a misunderstanding? I'll wait for you in the parking lot. I had something to give him. But after waiting for a long time, it wasn't him who showed up, but Chloe, wearing Robert Blackwood's jacket. She was utterly arrogant. My dear sister, don't you get it? Even if I do nothing, just standing in front of Robert Blackwood means I've won. If I were you, I'd tuck my tail between my legs and slink away. She was telling the truth. Everything that had happened recently reinforced this brutal reality. I controlled my grief and ignored her, but she escalated. How about we make a bet? I bet I can just lie down, and you'll lose everything. Do you believe me? Before I could figure out what she meant, she suddenly threw herself onto the hood of my car. Just then, Robert Blackwood's angry voice came from the side. Ava, what did you do to Chloe? For the explanation was stuck in my throat, cut off before I could even start. You're so malicious, trying to hit Chloe. Where did the gentle, kind person you used to be go? He held Chloe protectively, listening as she tearfully accused me of suddenly starting the car and lunging towards her. If I had actually hit her, I said, she'd be a corpse right now. But Robert Blackwood's eyes were red with rage, deaf to reason. He yanked open the car door, pulled me out, and shoved me onto the ground. Are you saying you didn't do it? That Chloe is lying to frame you? Do you dare let me see the dashcam footage? At the mention of the dashcam footage, Chloe, who had been lying on the ground, suddenly grabbed his arm. Robert, I'm fine. She just scared me a little. Chloe, you're too kind. You can't keep letting her get away with this. She needs to apologize. I listened to them, sneering. She'd framed me, yet he called her kind and expected me to apologize to her? Robert Blackwood, I will never apologize to her. Don't you know she's the one who killed? The rest of the sentence, who killed your child, was cut short by a slap. I fell to the ground, staring up at him in disbelief. But it wasn't over. He helped Chloe into the car, then got into the driver's seat himself and deliberately lunged towards me with the car. He would go this far for Chloe, disregarding the 5 years we'd spent as husband and wife. I closed my eyes in despair, feeling only the rush of wind. Ava, if there's a next time, I swear I'll make you suffer 100 times over for what Chloe went through. He drove Chloe to the hospital, completely ignoring the blood dripping from my thigh. I hadn't fully recovered from the abortion, and now my condition was worse. I used all my strength to call my emergency contact, but he had already replaced my parents' number in my phone with his own. Ava, what do you want now? My stomach hurts so badly. Take me to the hospital. The phone call was abruptly cut off. I had no strength left and passed out. When I woke up, I was in a hospital room. The doctor informed me that my uterus was damaged, making it difficult to have children again. Hearing that, I almost passed out again. But I forced myself to hold on and called my Sarah. I'm ready to go overseas. Come pick me up. I also told the doctor that if a man named Robert came looking for me, he should give him my miscarriage report. I thought it would take Robert Blackwood a week to think of me, giving me enough time to disappear from the system and fly overseas. But it actually took longer than I expected. The day I was discharged, an automatic bill payment sent him a notification, and Robert Blackwood finally realized Ava had been in the hospital too. Her hospital room was only 1 floor away from Chloe's, not far at all. That afternoon, he bought Chloe some fruit and thought he'd bring Ava the strawberries Chloe didn't eat. If possible, he even wanted to apologize to Ava. He knew he'd gone too far the other day. But Ava loved him so much, she would surely forgive him. So he put it off for 2 weeks before finally going to see Ava. As he looked at the floor directory listing the OB/GYN floor, a bad feeling twisted in his gut. He pushed open the door, but the hospital bed was empty. Doctor, where is Ava? He ran all over the floor, but there was no sign of Ava. The doctor in charge of inpatient care arrived late. Who are you? What's all this noise? I'm Robert Blackwood. Hearing this, the doctor adjusted his glasses and handed him an envelope. You're looking for Ava, aren't you? She asked me to give you this before she left. 5 Robert Blackwood slapped the envelope to the ground. I don't want this. I'm asking you, where is Ava? The doctor rolled his eyes, picking up the envelope. Who are you to the patient? Didn't she inform you where she was going? Robert Blackwood's face darkened, his brow furrowed, and he sighed. I'm her husband. The doctor let out a chuckle. Mr. Blackwood, who are you trying to fool? Everyone at this hospital knows Chloe is your wife. Then he pulled out his phone and showed Robert Blackwood the viral headline about the car accident. That day, you brought your wife to the operating room for an emergency, and all the doctors in the entire hospital were summoned. Don't try to lie to me. Robert Blackwood's face flushed red. He wanted to explain, but he couldn't produce any evidence to refute it. His phone wallpaper wasn't Ava, and he couldn't find a single decent picture of them together in his photo album. The doctor was right. Compared to Ava, who he'd been with for 5 years but never legally married, Chloe seemed more like his rightful wife. Robert Blackwood started explaining to the doctor, but Chloe, who was supposed to be in her hospital room, grew impatient and came looking for him. Robert, this isn't the first or second time Ava has thrown a tantrum. Didn't she leave the hospital without a word last time too? You scared her the other day, so she's probably deliberately hiding now. She's not as simple as me, she's cunning. You can't fall for her tricks. But Robert Blackwood heard none of it. No, Ava didn't even leave me a message this time. Chloe, you're her sister. Ask the doctor where she is, okay? Chloe's smile froze, and she made various excuses. The doctor, seeing their interaction, became even more tight-lipped. I'm sorry, hospital policy prevents us from disclosing patient whereabouts. However, Mr. Blackwood, I really suggest you look at the note Ms. Ava left. Robert Blackwood picked up the letter with trembling hands. One glance, and he froze. Ava, she had a miscarriage? All these years, he'd longed for a child of his own. He hadn't expected there to be one, but before he even knew, the baby was gone. And the date of the miscarriage was the same day as the car accident. Ms. Ava's baby could have been saved, but all the doctors were in the operating room at the time, so we couldn't save her. The doctor's words made Robert Blackwood's head reel. He had diverted all the medical resources. He had killed his own child. The miscarriage report in his hand felt impossibly heavy, making his knees tremble until he knelt on the ground. Doctor, please, tell me where Ava is. This is very important to me. Chloe couldn't stand to see him like this. She snatched the report from his hand and tore it up. She's always been frail and had trouble getting pregnant. This must be a fake document she made up to deceive you. She'll do anything to keep you. But the next second, the doctor proved her wrong. Ms. Chloe, falsifying medical documents is a crime. I performed Ms. Ava's miscarriage procedure myself. I can attest that she was indeed pregnant. Furthermore, Ms. Ava's baby was an IVF baby, and there are records at the hospital. Do you know how many progesterone shots she had, how much medication she took just to conceive this child? Every time Ms. Ava came to the hospital, she was alone. She is independent and resilient. How dare you insult her like this? 6. The doctor's words moved Robert Blackwood deeply. No, he declared. I have to find Ava. At that moment, he finally realized how much Ava had sacrificed for him, and how he had failed both Ava and their child. He started to leave, but Chloe grabbed his arm. Robert, don't go. Don't leave me alone in the hospital. I'm scared. The next second, Chloe was roughly shoved to the ground. Her head hit the corner of a table, her forehead cut and bleeding. She cried dramatically, trying to act helpless and pleading with him to stay, just like she always did. But Robert Blackwood was unmoved. Ava was alone for her procedure and her discharge. Wasn't she scared? He ran several red lights on the way home, only to find that everything belonging to Ava was gone. He instinctively pulled out his phone. Ava's contact was still in his call history, showing the 20-something calls she'd made to him on the day of the accident. He hadn't returned a single one. When he tried to call her back now, he found his number was blocked. Their chat history on social media stopped on the day Ava had sent the message, "Wait till I get home, I have a surprise for you." The surprise was the baby, now gone. If he hadn't diverted all the medical resources for Chloe, maybe the baby would still be alive, and Ava would still be here. While he was lost in his grief, the hospital called again. Ms. Chloe was pushed to the ground and cut her face. Now she's threatening to jump off the rooftop. Robert Blackwood's pupils contracted in shock. After a moment's hesitation, he drove back to the hospital. But this time, he just coldly pulled the histrionic Chloe down from the windowsill. Haven't you made enough of a scene? Only now did he realize how terrible the acting was from the woman he'd always thought of as his pure and innocent first love. After settling Chloe, he hurried back to the hospital room where Ava had stayed. Doctor, tell me, where did Ava go? The only thing he had that could prove his connection to Ava was the IVF consent form, with his name signed on it. The doctor was stunned for a long time before accepting the truth. Robert Blackwood gave a bitter laugh. When had it come to this, that he needed a SI? Ned form to prove he was associated with Ava? Mr. Blackwood, the doctor said, for some reason, Miss Ava's information is no longer in the hospital system. She may have chosen to disappear from the system in the States. It was obvious to anyone that Robert Blackwood had failed Ava. The doctor didn't want to say more, only mentioning that Ava's uterus was damaged, making it difficult to have children again. Mr. Blackwood, you already owe her enough. Please, let her go. But Robert Blackwood wouldn't listen. He insisted the doctor call Ava. If she wouldn't answer his calls, she'd surely answer the doctor's, right? He even prepared a note, asking the doctor to convey his feelings over the phone. It read, Ava, I never wanted to leave you. Even when Chloe came back, I couldn't help but pay attention to her, but my heart was always with you. However, the doctor couldn't reach Ava either. They had to call Ava's Sarah instead. But all they got was one sentence. She went overseas, somewhere Robert Blackwood will never find her. Robert Blackwood was dumbfounded. Unfindable? Ava had gone to such lengths just to get away from him. His face was grim. The depression that had gotten better with Ava by his side showed signs of relapsing. The unbearable pressure overwhelmed him. My vision went black, and I passed out. 7 when he woke up, he was back in a hospital room. The real heir to the Blackwood fortune stood by the bed, mocking him just like 5 years ago. You're finally awake. Congratulations, you've lost everything again, just like 5 years ago. Before Robert Blackwood could process what was happening, Marcus Blackwood thrust his phone, open to a viral headline, in front of him. Didn't you know Chloe was a corporate spy I sent? You fake heir, you were prioritizing a woman over your empire. Had fun these past few months? Now your company has been exposed for plagiarism. Be acquired or go bankrupt. Choose one. Marcus Blackwood pompously and arrogantly threw tea. He acquisition contract onto his hospital bed. Just like he had years ago, when he publicly had his arm around Chloe, the woman Robert Blackwood had broken the engagement with. But this time, Ava wasn't by his side. Marcus Blackwood laughed as he walked out of the hospital room. You drove Ava away. Who else can save your company now? As for Chloe, she's disfigured. Maybe you should just keep her. Robert Blackwood coughed up a mouthful of blood and fell unconscious again. In his hazy consciousness, he felt someone crying while holding him. Ava, he cried out, waking up with a start, only to find it was Chloe crying while holding him. Robert, do you know how worried I was about you? Let's get married. He had waited 5 years for those words, but now, they felt empty and meaningless. No, he refused coldly. He had to find Ava. If Ava knew he was still entangled with this deceitful woman, she would be angry. That was his only thought now. But Chloe clung to him tightly. Why are you looking for her? You've been sending me letters every month for the past 5 years. Don't you love me? I love you, Robert Blackwood. Let's get married. I was disfigured because of you. You must take responsibility for me. Robert Blackwood carefully examined her face wrapped in bandages. When she said she loved him, Chloe's expression was completely different from Ava's. There was no trace of love, only calculation. He sighed. I'm bankrupt now. Are you sure you want to marry me? Chloe nodded firmly, but when she saw the company acquisition contract by the bed, her face instantly changed. I didn't expect you to be truly as down and out as you were 5 years ago. As if afraid of being contaminated by something dirty, Chloe quickly backed away. Only a fool like Ava would be willing to stick by a man and help him rise again. Don't expect me to suffer with you. Robert Blackwood almost laughed with rage. Right in front of Chloe, he tore the acquisition contract to shreds. Do you really think I would sell the company and end up with nothing? Looks like lurking by my side all this time didn't teach you how many assets I actually have. The next second, Chloe knelt at his feet, begging for forgiveness. What I said just now was just out of anger. Don't take it seriously. How could I not love you? Let's get married. Stop being difficult, okay? Robert Blackwood was beyond furious. He slapped Chloe decisively. You think you're worthy? I've had a revelation. I'm going to sell off my company and assets, and use the money to search for Ava. And you won't get a single cent. No! Chloe screamed hysterically. She had only agreed to be a corporate spy to please Marcus Blackwood and marry into the Blackwood family. But then she was disfigured, and Marcus Blackwood didn't want her anymore. Now she had no fallback, so she completely dropped the act. Robert Blackwood, you've learned to fake deep affection now. Didn't you insist on giving me the operating room back then? And that time in the parking lot, I just shed a few tears, and you believed my lies, almost hitting Ava. I'm telling you, Ava is never coming back. You deserve this. Only now did Robert Blackwood learn the truth. As his bodyguards escorted Chloe away, he felt overwhelmed with repentance. If he could, he would give up everything just to be reunited with Ava. That day, I got off the plane and moved into the estate my Sarah had arranged for me. Even with a physical therapist helping with recovery, I was left with lingering back pain. In my second month overseas, I started working at the leading company in the area. An excellent interview and a strong resume quickly helped me become part of the management team. In Robert Blackwood's company, no matter how well I performed, people would only praise me as Mrs. Blackwood, the virtuous wife. Now, my abilities were my crown, earning me the respect I deserved. At one meeting, my superior suggested expanding the company's presence into the States. I was appointed president of the North American division and returned to the States. At a business dinner, I overheard people talking about Robert Blackwood. I don't know why Robert Blackwood has fallen into decline. If he hadn't been selling off his company and assets, we wouldn't have so much market share to divide up now. I heard his beloved wife had left him, and he's been selling off assets to search for her around the world. He even started a foundation to help find her. My God, who is this wife? I've never heard of her all these years. Ignorant. Of course, it's Chloe. I listened to their conversation silently, my heart unmoved. See? Everyone still thought the person Robert Blackwood loved was Chloe. The 5 years I'd spent with him felt like a joke. Just as I was about to leave, Robert Blackwood walked towards the group who had been talking about him. Excuse me, he said, I need to clarify. My wife's name is Ava, not Chloe. I hadn't seen him in a year, and he looked awful, haggard. His suit was loose and ill-fitting, his tie crooked. After clarifying, he pulled a few business cards from his pocket. My wife recently returned to the States. If you have any information about her whereabouts, please contact me. But he didn't know I was only a few feet away, watching with a cold gaze. Perhaps he sensed something, because he scanned the room, but I had already left. In the underground parking lot, I started my car, wanting to leave that place. My headlights flared, and Robert Blackwood stepped in front of my car. Tears of joy streaming down his face, he said, Ava, I finally found you. Get out of the way, I said, leaning on the car horn impatiently. But he ignored the horn. Ava, I know you hate me, but I won't let go of you again. If you want to leave, you'll have to run me over. The memory flashed back to that day he tried to scare me with his car. But I wasn't rotten enough to become like him. I got out of the car, my heels clicking on the pavement. You have 5 minutes. 1 minute is enough. In front of me, he knelt on one knee and held up a ring. Ava, for the past 5 years, didn't you always want to marry me and have a real wedding? Will you marry me? Even though my heart was calm, my body reacted first. I brushed away a tear. It's too late. But he stubbornly remained on his knees. Ava, it's never too late if you're willing. I don't believe you couldn't let go of me. 9 Robert Blackwood truly believed I couldn't let go of him. Back then, when he had nothing and everyone had abandoned him, only I was there for him. When his depression made him volatile, hadn't I always tolerated his behavior? One time, he was so desperate he wanted to jump off the rooftop. I rushed onto the rooftop and held him tightly, saying, if you go, I go with you. How could I live without you in a world where you don't exist? He was the person I stayed by his side even when my own life was on the line for. How could I just let go? Besides, it had been so long since it happened, surely I should have gotten over my anger. But Robert Blackwood didn't understand that my tolerance for him stemmed from my love. Now, all that love, like the baby I lost, was buried and turned to dust. When you don't love someone anymore, letting go comes naturally. 5 minutes are up. I'm leaving. Robert Blackwood remained silent for a long time, still standing in front of the car. If I can make up for all my past mistakes, will you love me again? I frowned, looking away. I'm sorry. I don't care about the past anymore. I'm living a good life now. I don't need your apologies or your attempts at atonement. Whatever he did now couldn't erase the pain I had endured. For the person I used to be, spending 5 years by the side of the man I loved was the greatest happiness. But for the person I was now, embracing a new life was what mattered. Go back, I told him. Go find Chloe. For the past Eva years, you always carried a torch for her in your heart. She's the one you should be with, not me. The moment those words left my mouth, the heavy stone that had weighed on my heart for so long finally lifted. Robert Blackwood didn't look relieved as I had expected. He suddenly buried his face in his hands and wept. No, I don't love her, I only want you. I pretended to go bankrupt, and she abandoned me just like she did 5 years ago. You're the only one in this world I can trust. Over those 5 years we spent together, I fell in love with you. It's my fault for realizing it too late and breaking your heart. Then, ignoring everything, he rushed over and pulled me into a hug. The smell of blood reached me. I realized his arms were covered in cuts from a small knife. Has your depression been acting up? Whenever his symptoms flared, Robert Blackwood had a habit of self-harm. Some cuts were fresh, others old, a dense, sickening pattern, many times more than before. Some were still bleeding, others were festering. He could easily get infected like this. I touched his forehead, it was burning hot. I'll take you to the hospital. He shook his head, just holding me quietly. I don't want to go. I just want you to stay with me. Just hold me, like you used to. Warm tears dripped onto my collarbone. I sighed. Stop this, Robert. When I tried to help him into the back seat of the car, Robert Blackwood suddenly shoved me away. You cannot forgive me? He took out a knife and slashed his wrist. The blood you lost that day, I'll pay it all back now. I can't live in a world without you. 10 Robert Blackwood wanted to atone with his death. But I couldn't just watch him die right in front of me. After I got him to the hospital, his friend rushed in, his eyes red-rimmed. Ava, if he wakes up and finds you're not here, he'll definitely attempt suicide again. Can't you stay and keep him company? The man who had once mocked me for not being worthy of Robert Blackwood was now begging me to stay. But I shook my head. I'm sorry, my life isn't just about him. I cannot stay by his side forever. It's over between us. His friend's eyes were red. Now, without me, the task of taking care of Robert Blackwood fell to him. Only now did he understand the burden I'd carried back then. He spent the entire afternoon trying to persuade me, but I wouldn't budge. The usually arrogant man sighed. You're right. How could you ever forgive him? He killed your baby and did so many awful things to you. You're right not to forgive him. But then he took out a property transfer agreement. Robert Blackwood has been saying he felt he owed you. This agreement was prepared long ago. Sign it. When I left Robert Blackwood, I only took what was rightfully mine. What he was offering now was everything he had left. Looking at the agreement, I shook my head. I'm sorry, I cannot accept it. It would be a betrayal of the child I lost, and a betrayal of the person I used to be. As I turned to leave, Robert Blackwood, who was on the hospital bed, tears streamed down his face. Don't go, Ava, don't go. He had been awake the whole time, been listening to our conversation the whole time. Knowing this might be the last time we might see each other, he was sobbing uncontrollably. I'm sorry, I ruined you. I don't ask for your forgiveness, I only hope you can give me one last hug. I stood rooted to the spot, watching as his eyes grew dim. He took out the ring he'd intended to give me. What about this? Can you take this? Let it be compensation for the past 5 years. I shook my head. Anything associated with him reminded me of the baby, and I didn't want to live in the shadow of the past for the rest of my life. After telling his friend to take good care of him, I turned and walked away calmly. It was time to pick up my child from school. Robert Blackwood's eyes were full of pain. Ava, I already know the fact that you couldn't have children. You'd make up such a lie about not being able to have children just to get away from me. But before he could finish, there was a knock on the door. My new boyfriend walked in holding Lily's hand. Mommy, Lily said, I was good walking home with Daddy today. Can I have fried chicken for dinner as a reward? Robert Blackwood couldn't believe his eyes, watching all of this. Ava, you have a child? And a husband? His eyes were red. He realized with a shock how long he'd been absent from my life. I asked David to take Lily outside. Lily was my adopted child, and David was the man I was dating with the intention of marriage. I didn't want Robert Blackwood to create any misunderstanding between us. When I explained this to him, he was sobbing. So, he choked out, you don't want me anymore? I smiled and shook my head, refuting his words. People have to be responsible for their past actions. With that, I didn't stay for him any longer. That night, Robert Blackwood took his own life. He passed away because he couldn't be saved in time. I was making fried chicken for Lily when I heard the news. I accidentally burned my hand on the hot oil. My boyfriend wrapped my hand with a concerned look. How can you be so careless? He asked. Are you thinking about something? I shook my head. No, my mind is clear. I was about to start my truly new life. Ache you for someone else. Sean, please forgive me. You don't know how I've been these past few years. I dream of you every night, but when I open my eyes, there's nothing there. That feeling, I don't want to experience it again. Catherine Kate Hawthorne stubbornly grabbed my hand, as if afraid that I would disappear silently in front of her again. My professor noticed my situation and came to my rescue. He smiled at Catherine Kate Hawthorne, but his words were full of threat. My student is an outstanding contributor to the country and society, not a kept man you keep. If you dare to disrespect him again, I'm afraid the Hawthorne family won't be able to protect you. 3 years have already formed an insurmountable gap between us. Even if she recognized me, even if she was unwilling, in the end, there was nothing she could do. Sean, why are you doing this to me? I would rather you hate me. I'm sorry, madam, my next project is about to begin. Please don't waste my time or disturb my life any further. I didn't have time to waste with Catherine Kate Hawthorne, and I didn't have time to reminisce about the past. I shook off Catherine Kate Hawthorne's hand and left with my professor. Catherine Kate Hawthorne wanted to chase after me, but she was stopped by the security guards. I watched her figure gradually stoop down, watching her shed tears silently. The once high-spirited young woman who loved me to the point of recklessness died completely at this moment. The vows from many years ago, after the passage of time, came true at this moment. From now on, the Catherine Kate Hawthorne living in this world is just an emotionless walking corpse. And I will be heading towards my own brilliant future alone.